Manito, ¿con quién estás hablando?
She gonna slam it on you.
Yo, what the f?
This first video was captured by hospital staff, including night guards and a surgical technician, after a series of unusual events began taking place inside a long-established medical facility. The woman documenting the incident works in the children's wing as a surgical tech, and according to her, everything seemed normal until a tragic case changed the atmosphere in the building. Not long before these recordings, a young girl had undergone surgery in one of the operating rooms, but unfortunately didn't survive. After that, staff members began reporting strange occurrences throughout the hospital, things that didn't have clear explanations and seemed to happen without warning. Over time, these incidents became frequent enough that some of the nurses decided to document what they were experiencing. One of the most talked about examples involves a heavy hydraulic door. This isn't a door that moves easily. It requires a button to be pressed in order to open, and once activated, it's designed to move slowly and remain open long enough for staff and equipment to pass through safely. But according to multiple staff members, the door began opening and closing on its own.
I don't see none. And it's just all it does is that. Huh? She gonna slam it on you.
We looking at a ghost, Miss Cece?
That's all it does. All by itself.
Maintenance teams were called in to inspect it, but no mechanical issues were found that could explain the behavior. Eventually, the hospital almost fully shut down, although Linda's department reportedly continued working there for several months afterward. During that time, the strange activity didn't stop. At one point, while on a break, Linda decided to explore the lower levels of the building and record what she found.
This was the doctor's lounge. Let me see. Wondering if there's anything on the walls. Nothing. Oh, I just got dizzy, and I don't know why. Hate that feeling.
In the footage, she points out what appears to be the reflection of a person wearing a white coat, visible on a bulletin board as she approaches. The figure doesn't seem to match anyone physically present at the time, which is what makes the moment stand out. As you probably noticed, she also said that while she was down there alone, she began to feel lightheaded, adding to the unease of the situation. To this day, several staff members remain convinced that whatever started after the girl's passing never really left, and that the building itself became tied to those events in a way they still can't fully explain. Now, this next piece of footage comes from the third floor of a building under renovation in Colombia, a place that, at the time, was mostly empty and still in the process of being worked on. Areas like this are usually quiet, with long stretches of silence broken only by the occasional noise from the structure itself settling or distant sounds echoing through unfinished hallways. On this particular night, a security officer was carrying out a routine patrol, walking through the floor to make sure everything was secure. It's the kind of task that becomes repetitive over time, especially in a building where nothing is supposed to happen. And because of that, you don't expect anything out of the ordinary. At first, everything appears completely normal. The officer moves through the area without hesitation, scanning his surroundings the way he likely does every night. There's no visible disturbance, no movement, nothing that suggests anyone else is present on that floor. But then something changes, and it happens without any warning.
Yeah. Colombia.
In the middle of his patrol, the officer suddenly stops. There's no immediate reason visible on camera for him to do so, but his attention clearly shifts towards something in front of him. He then raises his hand in a gesture that looks like a greeting and begins speaking as if someone is standing there with him. The way he moves and responds doesn't look forced or confused. It appears natural, like he's having a normal conversation with another person. He pauses at certain moments, as if listening, then replies again, continuing the interaction. There's a rhythm to it that suggests he's not just talking to himself, but reacting to something he believes is there. What makes the moment unsettling is that from the camera's perspective, there's no one else in the frame. No shadow, no movement, nothing that would indicate another person is present. The space in front of him remains completely empty the entire time. The longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to explain, because his behavior stays consistent. There's no sign of confusion or hesitation, just a steady interaction with something that only he seems to perceive. The situation becomes even more uncomfortable when another guard, who is monitoring things from elsewhere, reaches out over the radio and asks him who he's talking to. That question seems to interrupt whatever is happening at the moment.
Pero no dito con quién estás hablando. No hay nadie, marica. No hay nadie.
As soon as he processes what was just said to him, his demeanor changes almost instantly. The casual tone disappears, and his body language shifts. He looks around, as if trying to confirm what he's just been told. And that's when it seems to fully register that there's no one there. The realization hits him quickly, and his expression changes from relaxed to visibly unsettled. Without continuing the interaction, he backs away and then leaves the area entirely, clearly no longer comfortable staying there. What stands out most about this clip isn't just the fact that he appears to be talking to someone who isn't visible, but how natural the interaction seems before that realization sets in. There's no indication at the start that anything is wrong, which makes the shift in his behavior feel even more abrupt. Whether it was a misunderstanding, a moment of disorientation, or something that simply wasn't captured on camera, it's the kind of footage that leaves more questions than answers. Because whatever he thought he was seeing at that moment, it felt real enough for him to respond to it without hesitation. But apparently, this security guard wasn't the only one talking to someone nobody else could see. A security officer shared this unsettling footage from a colleague's night shift, documenting an encounter that becomes harder to explain the longer you watch it. During a routine patrol, the guard came across what he believed to be a disoriented patient wandering near his office. The individual appeared confused, as if they didn't know where they were or how to get back to their room. Out of concern, the officer approached them and invited them to sit down, treating the situation the way anyone would in a hospital setting. But what makes this encounter stand out is what the cameras captured at the same time.
He called his boss asking him, why didn't y'all tell me that? He constantly looking back, right? He's talking to somebody, right? Just watch, this is creepy. Look, having a whole conversation with somebody, right? Saying that somebody came and he dapping that person off and everything. Now see, look, y'all see when he dapped them off, look what happened. He dapped them off, you see that shadow? And then the shadow goes over here and he pulling the chair out for him. He swore to God he sat there and had a whole conversation with this person. He moved over talking to him and everything. Y'all better protect yourselves. Whatever that was took advantage of.
While the guard is clearly interacting with someone, speaking and gesturing as if engaged in a normal conversation, the security footage shows no visible person in the room. Despite that, there is a shadow cast across the floor, one that doesn't seem to match anything physically present on camera. The officer involved has maintained that he was speaking to someone who felt completely real in that moment, someone he could see and respond to naturally. But when compared to the footage, there's a clear disconnect between what he experienced and what was actually recorded. That contrast is what makes the situation so difficult to explain, because it suggests that either something wasn't captured on camera or what he saw wasn't physically there in the first place. That's unsettling because you can't see anything. This next one is different though, because you can. This footage comes from a security officer working a late-night shift at an aging hospital, a place that, according to local stories, has long been associated with reports of paranormal activity. Over the years, people have claimed that former patients still linger in the building, especially in the quieter areas where the lights are dim and activity is minimal. On this particular night, the guard wasn't investigating anything unusual. He was simply recording a video message for his family back home, speaking casually and unaware that anything out of the ordinary was happening around him. It wasn't until later, when reviewing the footage, that something unsettling became apparent. Just outside the second-floor window behind him, what appears to be the face of an elderly woman can be seen staring directly in. The image is faint, but clear enough to stand out once you notice it. Some people believe it could be a mask or some kind of reflection, but that explanation raises its own questions. The window is located on the second floor, with no visible ledge, platform, or structure that would allow someone to stand there. Because of that, others have suggested that the figure could be something more unusual, possibly connected to the hospital itself. Whether it's a trick of the light, a reflection, or something else entirely, the officer remains convinced that what appeared outside that window wasn't something that should have been there at all. Now, this next video was recorded by a night officer who claims that something unusual appeared on their CCTV system during a late shift. According to the report, the guards noticed something in the footage that didn't match anything they recognized, prompting them to take a closer look.
Ya no apareció. Ahí está. Va caminando. Mario, está enfrente de ti. Ahí está, enfrente de él. Que regrese, ya se pasó.
¿Ya lo pasó?
Ya,
¿Ya?
que regrese.
Regresa.
Ya se fue.
Ya se fue.
Ahí está otra vez.
Ahí está otra vez.
Au, desapareció. Ahí está.
Ay, sí que no mames. No, pero ahí ya se ve como ahí sí ya se ve como un escritorio.
Tiene sombra esa cosa.
At first, the figure appears faint and difficult to identify, but clear enough that the guards decided to send someone out to check the area in person. When they did, nothing was found. No person, no movement, nothing that could explain what had just been seen on the camera. Despite that, the figure reportedly appeared again, this time positioning itself more clearly within view, almost as if it was reacting to the presence of the vehicle. What stood out most to those who witnessed it was how the figure seemed to remain in place toward the end, appearing brighter or more defined than before. Some even suggested that it reacted to the headlights, as if it could sense or respond to the change in light. The situation raises a number of questions, especially considering that nothing was physically found at the location. Whether it's a visual anomaly, a trick of the camera, or something less easily explained, it's the kind of footage that leaves people unsure of what they're actually looking at. And that takes us to this following incident, one that was actually broadcasted on a television station. A police department claimed they may have captured something unusual inside their own building. The footage comes from a security camera at a station in Espanola Police Department, and it quickly gained attention after being shown in local news reports. At first, the scene looked completely normal, with the camera pointed toward a secured area of the station. It's a space that isn't easily accessible, and according to officers, any entry or exit would normally trigger alarms or require gates to open. But then, as the footage plays, a faint, human-like shape appears, moving through the area. What caught attention is the way it seems to pass directly through a locked gate, something that shouldn't be physically possible given how the space is set up. The officer who first noticed it initially thought it was something small, like an insect or debris on the lens. But after watching it more closely, he believed it had a clearer shape, even describing it as resembling a person rather than something random.
Some police officers saw something that freaked them out, and they captured it on camera.
It's an image that some people say appears to be a ghost walking around the police station. Nancy Laughlin has the video and talked to the men who shot it.
It started out as a pretty typical Saturday night. Espanola police officer Carl Romero was on duty, keeping an eye on the surveillance cameras around the station, when he saw something in the sally port.
At first, I thought it was like a polilla, like a fly, a moth, and then I saw the legs and it was a human.
But not a real human?
No, it was just a ghost.
So Romero reported it and told his supervisors. Detectives showed us the camera that captured the image. They say there is no way in or out of the secured area without an open gate and alarm sounding.
You can see it walk through. It walks in the direction of the old transport cages. And there's not really any way for it to get out through there, but it seems to walk right through that.
Detectives say there's no logical explanation for this, not an issue with the lighting or a technical glitch. Turns out there are a lot of ghost stories around here.
A lot of our officers have seen certain things. Some of our officers have felt what appears to be somebody breathing down their neck as they're working on reports in the briefing room.
Cops at the station also report hearing strange noises in the middle of the night and seeing unexplainable images in the lobby area too. Espanola police tell us as far as they know, this is not an ancient burial ground, and they say the police station has been here since 2006, but no inmates have died here. But they do say there have been some unsolved murders nearby.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I do, actually. I do believe in ghosts.
Do you think that was a ghost?
I do. I do believe it was something. It's hard to say, but yeah, I do believe it was a ghost.
These guys say they're not afraid of it, but it's definitely an image that haunts the officers.
Detectives later stated that there was no normal way for anyone to enter or leave that area without triggering the system, which is part of what made the footage so difficult for them to explain. Over time, different explanations have been suggested. Some people believe it could still be something natural, like dust, an insect, or a camera artifact. Others point out that multiple officers at the station have reported hearing strange noises or noticing unusual things in that same area over the years. Because of that, the footage ended up dividing opinion. Some see it as a simple visual misunderstanding, while others believe it could be one of those rare moments where something genuinely unexplained was caught on camera. With many clips like this, it doesn't really give a clear answer, just something that's difficult to fully explain. And in the next clip, something similar appears, but in a completely different setting. This footage comes from a security team monitoring a parking lot during their night shift, a location that had already drawn attention in recent months due to multiple unexplained incidents. According to reports from people familiar with the area, there had been several sightings that some described as ghostly, although none had been clearly documented until this moment. Because of that, the team had been keeping a closer eye on the surveillance system, paying more attention than usual to anything that seemed out of place. On this particular night, that extra attention would lead to something they couldn't easily explain.
It comes from up there. Up there. See? It's right there. Yo, what the f***, and it just disappears. I know I see it. Lose it?
In the middle of the parking lot, during steady rainfall, a faint shadow begins to appear. At first, it's subtle, almost blending into the surroundings, but as it becomes more defined, its shape starts to resemble something humanoid. The figure appears to move with intention, walking toward the side of the frame. As it does, there are moments where it almost looks like you can make out the motion of legs, giving the impression that it isn't just a random distortion or visual artifact. What makes the moment stand out is the fact that the parking lot itself is clearly empty. There are no visible people, no vehicles passing through, and nothing nearby that would obviously create a reflection or cast a shadow in that way. The camera adjusts slightly, continuing to follow the movement as the figure crosses the open space. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it fades and disappears entirely. Because of how it moves and the way its shape holds together for several seconds, some believe it's more than just something on the lens, like water or debris. Others argue that environmental factors, especially rain and lighting, could still be responsible for what's being seen. But one thing is for sure, it's the kind of footage that leaves room for interpretation, especially given the reports that had already been coming from that location. And that takes us to this footage released by the New South Wales Police Department, where something unusual caught the attention of viewers almost immediately. A CCTV camera positioned outside the station recorded activity that didn't seem to have an obvious explanation. At first, the scene appears completely normal, with no one visible in the area and nothing out of place. But then something happens that raises questions, especially considering the location and the fact that the footage comes from an official source. A garage door can be seen opening on its own, despite there being no one nearby to operate it. There's no visible interaction, no movement that would suggest someone triggered it manually. It simply begins to open without any clear cause. Moments later, a broom nearby suddenly topples over, adding another layer to the situation. On its own, that might not seem significant, but combined with the door opening just seconds earlier, it becomes harder to dismiss as coincidence. Because this is security footage from a police department, many people argue that it would be difficult to stage something like this without consequences. Others suggest there could still be a technical explanation, something mechanical or environmental that isn't immediately obvious. Either way, it's one of those clips that leaves just enough uncertainty to make people question what really caused it. Now for this next one, another piece of security footage captured something unusual inside a hospital room, and what makes it stand out even more is the context surrounding it. According to staff, a patient had passed away in that very room just the night before the recording was taken. While that alone doesn't explain anything, it does add a layer of unease to what appears in the footage. At first glance, the movement visible in the frame might look like a strand of spider web drifting in front of the camera. It's subtle and easy to dismiss if you don't pay close attention. However, staff later checked the area and reported that there were no cobwebs present that could account for what was seen. That doesn't rule out every possible explanation, as lighting and reflections can sometimes create similar effects. But it does make the moment harder to immediately explain. Because of that, the clip has led to different interpretations. Some see it as a simple visual anomaly, while others believe the timing of it, happening so soon after someone's death, makes it more difficult to ignore. Now this next and last case takes things a step further. Instead of something happening in one room, it follows someone home. This footage comes from Matthias, a security guard who began experiencing unsettling events inside his own home not long after working night shifts at an old warehouse. According to him, the activity didn't start at home, but instead followed him back from work, something he believes may have attached itself to him during those shifts. What makes the situation even more disturbing is that much of the activity appears to center around his daughter's room, turning what should be the safest place in the house into the focal point of these ongoing encounters. Over time, Matthias began documenting what was happening, sharing updates as the situation gradually escalated. What follows is only a portion of those recordings. Early on, the events seem subtle, but there's already a sense that something isn't right. The occurrences don't feel random, and Matthias begins to interpret them as more than just coincidence. To him, it feels almost like a warning, as if whatever is present isn't just there, but reacting to him being in the house. As he continues sharing updates, his tone begins to change. What starts as confusion slowly turns into unease, and then into something closer to fear. He repeatedly mentions the feeling that whatever is in the house isn't staying in one place, but getting closer over time.
4 de la mañana y no sé. Siento ruido ahí, pero no. Siento ruido arriba del techo. Ahora se calmó. Pero no sé.
The situation becomes more intense when the noises grow louder and more distinct. This time, they seem to be coming directly from a closet, a confined space that makes the source of the sound even harder to ignore. At this point, it's no longer something that can be brushed off easily. The sounds feel deliberate, focused, and close enough that they demand attention.
Una sensación horrible acá adentro.
As the activity continues, Matthias becomes increasingly convinced that whatever is in the house isn't going away. Instead, it seems persistent, almost as if it's reacting to his presence and reinforcing the idea that leaving might be the only way to escape it. With each update, he describes the same feeling, that something is moving through the house, gradually closing the distance between where it started and where he is. Things take another turn when electrical issues begin to occur alongside the other events. Lights, devices, and other systems start behaving unpredictably, adding another layer to what he's experiencing.
Mira cómo sale la luz, mira cómo sale la luz. ¿Qué onda? La luz está acá. Ahí está la tecla, mira. No sé qué es. Hace un rato estoy escuchando ruido acá. Pues les voy a mostrar esto. Mira, cuando apago la luz, ahí está con la luz. Yo prendí la luz de la casa de atrás para que haya luz, pero mira ahora. ¿Lo ven? Ahora prendo la luz. ¿Ven los orbes también? Espera que apago la luz ahora. Voy a hacer foco allá atrás a ver si engancha más. ¿Lo alcanzan a ver? Ahí está. Prendo la luz.
At this point, Matthias appeared overwhelmed, struggling to make sense of what's happening while also dealing with the growing tension inside his own home. The combination of unexplained noises and technical disturbances pushes him closer to a breaking point. In later updates, he references something often discussed in paranormal cases, the idea of so-called imposter entities, which are believed to mimic harmless or familiar presences in order to gain trust over time. Whether or not that concept applies here is unclear, but it reflects how he's trying to understand what he's dealing with. The most unsettling part of these types of situations isn't always what you see or hear directly, but the uncertainty they create. The way they make you question whether something is real, imagined, or somewhere in between. In many reported cases like this, people eventually choose to leave the environment entirely, unable to continue living under that kind of pressure. Others remain, trying to find explanations or solutions, even as the situation becomes more difficult to ignore. To this day, Matthias claims that the activity in his home hasn't fully stopped. While some people remain skeptical about the authenticity of his recordings, others believe he may have documented something genuinely unexplained. In the end, it's one of those cases that leaves the final interpretation up to the viewer. Now that was all for today, folks. If you enjoyed these horrifying clips, click to see more on the video on screen.